pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to citizens inquired this?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar. I'd like to share with council and the community that we have our fireworks are illegal signs ready. These signs will be are available at City Hall, Maintenance and Operations, the Justice Center, the Senior Center, and our Recreation Center. They're available for pickup this week. In addition, we have placed strategically 30 signs around the city in parks and right-of-way areas. We have also launched a campaign today on Facebook, different social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, in terms of educating the community that fireworks are illegal in Northglenn, and there will be enforcement over the course of the coming weeks.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions on the agenda, Council?
Thanks for being here.
No? Okay, tonight we have 3 proclamations, and then we're going to swear in our municipal judge. If council will meet me downstairs. Go ahead. I will read the first proclamation, and then I'm going to have Councilor Wolford read the second one, and Councilor Merritt read the third one. This is on men's health. Proclamation says, whereas, despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years less than women, with the Native American and African American population having the lowest expectancy rate. Whereas educating the public and the healthcare providers about the importance of healthy lifestyles and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing rates of mortality from disease. Whereas men who are educated about the value that preventive health can play in the prolonging. Whereas men who are educated about the value of preventive health care can play a prolonged lifespan, and their role as productive family members will be more likely to participate in health screening. And whereas Men's Health Network worked with Congress to develop a national men's health awareness period as a special campaign to help educate men, boys, and their families about the importance of positive health attitudes and preventive health practices. And whereas the Men's Health Month website has been established at www.menshealthmonth.org and features resources, information about awareness, events, and activities, wearing blue for men's health. And whereas Men's Health Month will focus on the broad range of men's health issues, including heart disease, mental health, diabetes, prostate, testicular, and colon cancer. And whereas residents of Northglenn are encouraged to increase awareness of the importance of a healthy lifestyle, may exercise, and with exercise and medical checkups. I therefore, Antonio B. Escobar, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Northglenn, hereby proclaim June the 19th as Men's Health Month. We don't have anyone to receive it, so who exercises the most? Man here is Kit Trim. Officer, would you like to come up and receive this? Come on. Counting on you to be fit and trim.
important. Eat right and work out. Live a long and happy life. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I will be reading this proclamation about LGBTQ Pride Month. Whereas the City of Northglenn has a diverse lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community and is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equity for all people in the community, and whereas residents, students, city employees, and business owners within the City of Northglenn contribute to the enrichment of our city and are part of the LGBTQ community, and whereas various advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of lesbians, gay men, bisexual, transgender, and queer persons throughout the nation, but there continues to be opposition against people from this community and around the world, making it important for cities like Northglenn to stand up and show that Northglenn is a community where hate and discrimination will not be tolerated. And whereas several cities across the United States recognize and celebrate June as LGBTQ Pride Month, and whereas during Pride Month, the City of Northglenn joins the nation in celebrating LGBTQ Americans, their struggle and their contributions to our communities, and we acknowledge that we must do more to create a more open and welcoming communities. And whereas the rainbow flag, also known as the LGBTQ Pride Flag or Gay Pride Flag, has been used since the 1970s as a symbol of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer pride, and LGBTQ social movements, and whereas flying the rainbow flag at City Hall throughout the month of June further symbolizes the city's celebration of diversity and support for the LGBTQ plus community. Now, therefore, I, Jenny Wilford, on behalf of Antonio B. Escobar, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim June 19th as LGBTQ Pride Month in the City of Northglenn and invite everyone to reflect on the ways we can all live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding, and further recognizes Pride Month by flying the rainbow flag at City Hall during the month of June, dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 10th day of June, 2019. And we have here with us today Sheena Cotty, Deputy Director of One Colorado, to accept the nomination. Sheena. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Councilwoman Wilford and City Councilors. My name is Sheena Cotty. I'm the Deputy Director at One Colorado, which is the state's largest LGBTQ advocacy organization for Coloradans and their families. I did a quick lookup before coming over, and we have close to 22,000 members that live in the city of Northglenn, 21,952. So thank you. Thank you for this. This is actually One Colorado's first invitation to come to a Northglenn City Council meeting. So thank you for extending that invitation. And with having almost 22,000 One Colorado supporters who live in the city, we know that over the last 50 years, the work has been done to make this a more inclusive and welcoming city. And thank you for making it so with this proclamation.
Thank you.
Yeah, picture.
Sheena, might I get you? Yes.
Oh, we forgot the photos. I'll sit back up here.
Come on down. Yes. There we go.
Okay. Oh, is it on? Yes? Oh, great. I'd like to welcome, actually, Lacey McGinty to join me up here. And you can bring anybody with you in orange. Come on. You want to be up here for this photo op. So this is an organization called Moms Demand Action. And so I will read the proclamation. Whereas every day, 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, and on average, there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. Americans are 25 more times likely to be killed with guns than people in other high-income countries. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor and council's highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas the mayor, city council, and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their residents safe. And whereas in January 2013, Hadiah Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed just weeks later. She would now be celebrating her 22nd birthday. And whereas to help honor Hadiah and the 100 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated the first Friday in June as the 5th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadiah's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas the City of Northglenn will observe a local Gun Violence Awareness Day on Friday, June 14th. By wearing orange, we will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children and communities safe. Therefore, the Northglenn City Council hereby proclaims June 14th, 2019 as Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Northglenn, and encourage all residents to support local community efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 10th day of June, 2019. So here to accept this proclamation are members of Moms Demand Action. Would you like to say a few words? Awesome.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Lacey McGinty, and I'm the Broomfield and Adams County Moms Demand Action local group leader. I'm also a mother, the wife of a veteran, and a responsible gun owner. I'm honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the gun violence prevention movement and to honor victims and survivors of gun violence. As you heard in the proclamation, 100 people die and nearly twice as many are injured by gun violence every day. Gun violence is the second leading cause of death of children in America. Not cancer, not sudden infant death, guns. It is preventable, and we owe it to our children to take action. They deserve to go to school in a place where they feel safe. They deserve to visit the movie theater and go to the dentist without fear. We all do. To put it simply, gun violence is a public health crisis which will require solutions from every level of government, school board, city council, state and federal government, to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people and people in crisis. We all have a role to play in preventing gun violence, and I appreciate that this council understands that the first step is to recognize the problem. I hope that by accepting this proclamation in the City of Northglenn, it will spark a conversation and a cultural shift in our Colorado cities to prioritize the health and safety of our communities, our families, and our children. Moving forward, I hope to see council support state and federal legislation to encourage responsible gun ownership and to close loopholes that have been exploited by dangerous people to obtain guns. I hope the City of Northglenn will partner with educational programs like the Be Smart program, which is designed to teach parents how to talk about gun safety with other adults in order to keep kids safe. Thank you, Northglenn City Council. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar, for supporting the Gun Violence Awareness Proclamation. It's an important first step to end gun violence and that we are facing in this country and to create a safe community for all of our citizens.
Teacher voice is not working? I'm sorry. I have to practice my teacher voice. Joanna, would you come forward? And Amanda, would you come forward? You want this?
I might not have enough hands.
Okay.
All right, so if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and then state your full name,
I, Amanda Lee Balehash,
do swear that I will support
do swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the laws of the State of Colorado,
the laws of the State of Colorado,
the Northglenn City Charter,
the Northglenn City Charter,
and the ordinances of the City of Northglenn,
and the ordinances of the City of Northglenn,
and will faithfully perform
and will faithfully perform
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of municipal judge,
upon which I am about to enter,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
I am extremely honored this evening to present to you Judge Amanda Balehash as the new municipal judge for the city of Northglenn. This is a challenging and rewarding position with the ability to positively influence community today and into the future. And when Amanda interviewed, that was one of the things that we were most impressed, that she was ready and willing and able to do this. This evening, Amanda has many members from her family. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently than the script. Why don't you introduce them?
So with me today, I have my husband, Graham, and then my oldest son, Lincoln, and then Mark, my youngest son, and then my dad, Reggie Lee, is holding the phone, videotaping. And then my mother and my stepfather, Carmen and Alex Chino. And then my youngest sister, Meredith, and her husband, Colin McTagg, and their daughter, Renee. And my sister-in-law, Laura Balehash, is here today. And then, in addition to my family, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce the presiding judge of Westminster, Tiffany Soros, who I did not tell her I was going to introduce, but she's been an incredible mentor and coach to me, and I wanted to be able to recognize her, so thank you.
So Judge Bale Hash resume is filled with examples of her passion for law and for her desire to ensure that those who are new to the profession or desire to learn more have access to mentors and well-trained leaders who can help and support them. I want to take a moment just to share a couple of words about Judge Bale Hash. She has been described as a gold standard in her field as an attorney, a mentor and a trainer. Setting the bar was another phrase used by many to describe her both professionally and personally. Other constituents' comments include being a hard-working team player who is creative problem solver who seeks collaborative solutions. Imagine that, a judge who wants to collaborate. We, the City Council of Northglenn, are thrilled to have Judge Bale Hash join the Northglenn team, and we look forward to working with you in the future. I'm going to recess the council meeting and retire into the room in there for punch and cake. Help us celebrate. Be about 15, 20 minutes. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. Continuing with presentations, we have Mr. Wilson, Jeff Wilson, 2000 legislative session recap.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I've previously distributed to you, it's in your packet, a 4-page single-spaced reprise of the just ended 2019 Colorado legislative session. I'm going to read that entire document now. No, I'm not. No, I'm not going to. Yeah, no, I'd fall over before you did. I'm going to leave that to your reading pleasure. I'll just say a few comments. As you know, nationally, the Democrats sort of ran the table in the midterm elections, and that was reflected as well here in Colorado at the General Assembly. Democrats this year enjoyed majorities in both the House and the Senate. Governor Polis was elected. The Democrats not only took over the majority in the entire process, they came in with a real agenda, a substantive agenda, and a lot of these bills, some of them dropped early, like all-day kindergarten, but then others were dropped very late in the session, and it gave the session kind of a crazy, hectic quality right until the very end. The number of these are like oil and gas, the red flag bill, that came in late, the local government minimum wage option, the climate change bill came in at the very last minute. This year, the state debrucing questions that we're going to see on the ballot, those were, came in right at the last minute. Well, I mentioned all-day kindergarten. The drafting of a lot of these bills was very insular. There was just a few people involved, and then the legislature came in for a lot of criticism because the bills would drop and then they'd run right through the process very quick, taking advantage of it now. But someday the other party will be in control, and that same device can be used the other way. So, but I won't be working at the Capitol. The local government lobby was effective on most of these major bills at taking care of local government issues. So in the end, I think it was a really good year for local government at the state capitol. There weren't a lot of, there weren't real major turkeys that passed that really nicked local government. I was particularly involved in some bills involving areas where I have personal issue expertise, like I was very heavily involved in the oil and gas bill. This session had a lot to do with that, and lesser to do with some KORA bills, open meetings bills, and criminal justice records laws, among others. Just to recap some of the items quickly that I mentioned in my summary, you noticed in there the legislature again passed packages of bills in certain areas supported by the city, like affordable housing, legislation responding to the opioid crisis, and watershed protection legislation. This continues. These three areas continue to be a focus at the Capitol. We saw some help this year on transportation funding in those debrucing bills that we saw at the end of the year. 30% of the money that is derived from the state being able to retain it after debrucing will go for transportation distribution under the Highway Users Tax Fund distribution formula of 60-22-18, where 18% of the money will go to cities. So it's not much, but it's something. I'll say that in the shortcomings of the legislature, transportation finance is one of them. They still didn't come up with the answer. Now, they put some interesting proposals to voters, and they were shot down. So there may be some, hesitancy to come forward with some new proposals, but it's their job to come forward with new proposals, and we didn't see any this year. The local government minimum wage authority and the equal pay for equal work bills passed, and the oil and gas bill that I alluded to earlier was a very good bill for local government. It restored a lot of our authority in this area and then enhanced our authority somewhat in the area of finding and enforcement. So good legislation on the whole, but not as revolutionary as a lot of the hype would have you believe. This bill is not the end of the world. The oil and gas industry is not moving anywhere because of this bill. It's very, very minor bill in my opinion. Let's see, I talked about transportation funding. really, I recommend the dossier to you. In my report, I focused on bills that passed, because I found for doing this forever, people care a lot less about battles that we succeeded in and bills that didn't get passed. So, but if you ever have any questions about any of this, I'm happy to answer. I've provided separate notice to you all that I'm stopped after 37 sessions. I'm calling it quits at the Capitol. I've had enough of the place. It's been really fun, and it certainly has nothing to do with representing Northglenn, which has been a complete blast. Really fun. The meetings of the legislative committee were very stimulating. Nobody in there has any trouble speaking up. I'll just say that. So I'll miss that. I'll miss all of those things, but I won't miss the Capitol after all these years. It's been a real honor and a pleasure to represent you. So thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions if I
Julie?
can.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Jeff, it was great being able to work with you. Thank you so much for guiding us through this legislative session. It was crazy at times and really overwhelming, but, I think that you helped us make sure that Northglenn has a voice down at the Capitol, and that's what the legislative committee, that's the purpose of that committee, to make sure that we're weighing in on some of these state level issues, and so I really appreciate everything that you did for us and our committee, Jordan, me, and I. So you will be missed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar. Jeff, I also wanted to say thank you so much. As you mentioned and highlighted in your report, we were well represented. Almost every bill that we supported passed and was signed by the governor, and almost every bill that we opposed died in committee or somewhere along the way. So I really appreciate all of the ways in which you represented Northglenn and made sure that our voice was well heard there. And I'm sad that you're leaving, but I wish you many years of Hawaiian shirts and perfectly made cocktails.
Well, I mentioned, I think in the notice, I'm the Salida and the Fort Morgan city attorney right now, so I have plenty to keep me busy and in Hawaiian shirts, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Moving along, public invited to be heard. Limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements shall be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. And we're going to start with Leslie Perico.
Hi there, I'm Leslie Carrico. I'm resident of Ward 2 on the Northglenn Community Foundation and Vail Board, so I serve the community. I just wanted to say that, it's really nice that we had a proclamation, honoring people that have differences, different lifestyles, different opinions, different ways of life. It's really great that we honor that. But maybe we should think about also being respectful and kind to our own council and to our own members and listening to what each other have to say and their ideas and their thoughts, and not having people feel threatened or feeling like they're disrespected. I just wanted to say, I think it's great that we honor people, but we ought to consider doing that amongst ourselves too. And with that said, I think it's just a shame what happened last week. It's really a really sad thing, and it doesn't reflect well on our city either. So that makes me very sad personally that we have this discontent situation going on. And on another note, I would like to say, being fiscally responsible, I think makes sense to not necessarily have a separate election for replacing our mayor. But I think that we should have an election to definitely do that, maybe in November, in the November timeframe, since you're already having an election at that point for different seats on the council. So I'd like you to consider about being fiscally responsible and doing the right thing by the city and having an open election so that the community can weigh in on who is the replacement mayor. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Leslie. Tracy Kilgore.
Good evening, my name is Tracy Kilgore. The resignation of Carol Dodge has left an empty space in the city of Northglenn. Life is about cherishing the past, facing the present, and moving on towards new milestones. As a non-resident of Northglenn, I've spent 5 years dedicated to the city of Northglenn and through CPAN and the Northglenn Police Department. I seriously hope that council takes a hard look at the negativity and how it affects the residents and volunteers in the city. You are here to serve the people of the city, just as Carol did. While it saddens me to see Carol step down due to the toxic environment of certain city council members and their own hidden agendas, I hope that this provides the city with an opportunity to come together for the good of the city. It was an honor to have Carol as the mayor of the city. Carol really did care about the city long before becoming the mayor. And she will be truly missed, and I wish her all the best in her new chapter, and she's on to bigger and better things. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Tricia, Quint?
Good evening, Council. Given the recent resignation of Mayor Dodge, I'm here to share my perspective as a citizen and as a volunteer with the City of Northglenn. I reached out to my Ward 1 representatives, Councilmember Sowers and Leidy, and I've asked them these questions. How have you contributed to the toxic environment, or how have you contributed to resolve the tension among council members? What are the strengths of the council, and what are the weaknesses of the council? Knowing that there's growth on all ends and perspectives to be heard, I thank you, Councilmember Leidy, for responding back to me and giving your personal perspective on the current situation. Reviewing voting records from the council indicate there's many common voting patterns among all council members. However, I have observed interactions that show a lack of common understanding among the council. I expect my elected officials, my ward, and the city to be open-minded to other opinions and ideas. I have witnessed council members sharing their opinion, but not being open to hearing others. Just because you state your opinion repeatedly doesn't mean it is right or that others must agree with you. It was evident from viewing the November 27th, 2017 council meeting that clearly there were differing points of view, and this continues in many meetings that I view online. It is unprofessional to continue poking and poking to evoke a negative response. I have witnessed council members passing notes and texting during meetings, whether for gossip or professional note-taking, I'm not sure, but the focus must be on the issue at hand. I believe these and many others led to the resignation of Mayor Carol Dodge. It is disgraceful to the city of Northglenn to allow a toxic environment to become so pervasive that a tremendous, caring servant leader feels the only option is to leave her very hard-earned elected position. I encourage the council to take time for personal reflection. Are you truly serving the citizens of Northglenn, or are you serving your own political agenda? I also encourage the city to host a special election for mayor and seek the best candidate for the office. The residents need to have input on the next leader of this great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Karen Wallace? Karen Lawless?
What? Did you say Karen Wallace?
Yes. Yes. He's having a hearing. Oh, okay.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I'm really disappointed in the council. And I was always brought up that you don't vote for just anybody. You vote for the person, whether it be a man or a woman, that you think will do the best job. And that's what the people of Northglenn did. And we've lost the best mayor that we could have had or have ever had since I've been here for 50 years. And she was a go-getter. She cared about the community. She cared about the city. She cared about the seniors and the schools. And she had good ideas. And she got things done. And I just do not understand. I feel like it's turned into the federal government. The Democrats and the Republicans can't get along together. And now the city council don't seem to be able to get along together either. And I'm really, really disappointed in it.
Thank you, Sharon. John Lawler?
You know, I didn't know I was going to be called, but my wife, I thought, did it. I echo those sentiments. We've been here ever since Northglenn started as a city, and we've had some good mayors, so-so mayors, but we had a great one. And it's pitiful that, my opinion, they ought to put back on the ballot whether your party affiliation, because obviously this is the Democrats against the Republicans, and we lost a good mayor because people couldn't get along, do what you're supposed to. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Krista May?
Good evening. My name is Kristen May, and I live in Ward 4. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. To begin with, I'd like to thank Mayor Dodge for her years of commitment and dedication to the residents of Northglenn. Not only she serves our mayor and council member for 10 years, she's also a long-term business owner and volunteered countless hours to make our community a better place to live. She loved being our mayor and was very good at it. It's a real shame that it had to end this way. Mayor Dodge and her husband Wayne frequently went above and beyond what most of us would do for the city. They should be commended for everything that they've done for us. There have been a few instances that I didn't agree or wondered why she made the decisions that she did make. Mayor Dodge has always been willing to take the time to sit down and listen to an opposing point of view and explain why she made her decision. This is a sign of a true leader. Being a council member can be a very demanding and rewarding experience. You have frequent meetings. Your time is really valuable and in short supply. For these reasons, I'd like to come before you unless it's something very important. The reasons cited in Mayor Dodge's resignation letter meet this requirement of importance. They show a council has some very large issues that need to be addressed and resolved quickly. This is the only example of some of our council members' poor behavior. It might be easier to overlook. But I've heard from residents, former council members, those that had to work with you, that some of you can be difficult to work with at best. These allegations have been made in the private sector. Human resources would be involved so quick it would make your head spin. Since you're elected officials, you don't have to answer to human resources, but you are accountable to us, the people that put you in this position. Not only is this type of behavior concerning, it is unacceptable. It's kind of ironic that we tell our kids that bullying is wrong, but then we see our leaders acting the same way. You should present a good example as community held to a higher standard. Simply put, we expect more from you. I've lived in Northglenn for a very long time and seen some really good times. Times that created serious division and anger. As a resident, I've witnessed some very dysfunctional councils. Councils that had immense dislike for each other, almost to the point of hatred. Not once in all those years has a mayor or council member felt like their situation was so bad their only recourse was to resign. My dad served on council for 2 terms and used to say that being a city council member is harder and more important than serving at the state or federal level. Your actions and decisions can have the potential to impact your friends' and neighbors' lives every single day. So you want to make sure you get things right. That being said, I'd like to congratulate you tonight. Congratulate you for achieving one of the all-time lows for city council and the city. Forcing a member to resign because of actions taken by a few members on city council. I sincerely hope for the sake of the city that I call home, you start playing well together. You're not always going to agree. We'll probably have some very heated discussions. That's part of the process. What's important is how you treat each other during these tough times and afterwards. Your actions during these times show your true character as a person. I'm not asking you to sit around the campfire together making s'mores and singing Kumbaya after your meetings. What I am asking you tonight is starting treating each other and those you work with on a regular basis, you treat each other with respect, dignity, and civility. That's pretty much how we all would like to be treated. If you're unable or unwilling to resolve these issues among yourselves quickly, you may find the voters of Northglenn take care of the problems for you. Thank you.
Chris? Joe Brown?
Hello, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. It's tragic what happened last week. I just can't believe that, it got to that point. I hope this serves as a wake-up call for council. Just from what I see when I watch these meetings, it's disheartening at times. Granted, I know more than I probably should, which would lead you to believe I'm biased. However, I've had several conversations with other people who ask me what the hell is going on with council. Some of the snide remarks that are passed about and the obvious lack of attention or interest in what is happening during meetings stands out when you're watching that TV. If what happens in this room bores you, is above or below you, then this is the wrong place for you to be. You're all in the business of running a city. Check party affiliations at the door. You're in the business to make sure that the city is here for future generations to enjoy. You all need to get it together, put any personal feelings you have towards each other away, and keep negative comments you may have towards a fellow council member to yourself, because those comments will most certainly make it back to whoever's being talked about. It's a team effort. If you're not in, then you need to go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Mindy Mullet?
Hello. I'm here to talk about something else. I thought I was going to be at the end. I'm actually here to talk about the short-term rental business. I've been in Northglenn, resident in Northglenn since 1987, and I've run businesses here since 1993. And this year I started a short-term rental business, and it's been really successful. I've had over 100 guests since I started this year. And I understand that there's been some things going on. I'm pretty busy, so I don't always hear about it, and I've been trying to get in the loop. And I'm surprised nobody has contacted those of us who are licensed business owners to help, with developing these rules. I'd like to be in the loop. I have successes and challenges and lessons learned and best practices that I could share. And from what I understand so far, what I've been able to eke out of the different people I've been talking with, it's kind of focused on the VRBO. The rules that you guys have are kind of focused on the VRBO vendor approach, and I'm not doing VRBO. So there's a lot of us out here in this new technology world where we're using all these apps to do business. I'm not in the business where I rent out houses. I share short-term rental roommates in my own home. And I'm not sure I'm seeing that reflected in the documents that I've read so far. So anyway, I'd like to know how to get in the loop, and I'd like to know why I haven't been contacted, and how I can make a difference and represent the business that I'm in here as a valued business member of the community. That's it. Heather?
Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. Mindy, I'll provide you with my card, and I'll have staff reach out to you, and we can have a conversation. The short-term rental ordinance is on first reading this evening, so happy to provide you with a copy of that and then talk with you more about your business and the ins and outs of how you may or may not be impacted.
Yep.
So I'll provide you with my card right now.
That's what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle Henry?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. So I want to start by kind of repeating some of the sentiment that's already been said and thanking Mary Dodge for her continued service, for her 10 years of service, and for the hours she devoted to the city and also to the sacrifices she made to serve. I also know that those sacrifices are the same sacrifices that you guys all make and that you dedicate those same hours to the city. So I also want to thank you guys. I don't think anybody on this council is up here for the wrong reasons. I think you're all up here because you want to put Northglenn first and make a better, stronger community for all of us. So thank you. My husband and I are proud to say that we live in Northglenn when we talk to people. And I'm always proud to say that I'm from Northglenn. And growing up in Northglenn wasn't always easy. Jordan, Councilmember Sowers, you know that. My mom was a struggling single mom who lived paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes she always says, and many of you may have heard her say this story 1,000 times, we all have, that she was always one paycheck away from being homeless, and sometimes she lost that homelessness, or she lost that paycheck. So I learned at a very young age how important a strong community can be. Coretta Scott King said that the greatness of a community is accurately measured by the compassion of its members. I'm paraphrasing there, but that's essentially what she said. And this was true when I was younger. It was true when a teacher bought me snow boots so I could go to outdoor lab. It was true when the Rangeview librarian stayed late to help me with my homework. And it was true when our neighbors saw that we were struggling and pulled together and filled our pantry with food. It's because of this compassion of our community that my family is where they are today, and it's the reason why we've dedicated our adult lives to giving back. I've worked for the last 15 years bringing communities together to address difficult situations, to resolve them. And the one thing that's true is that you can't resolve problems unless you continue to work together and make the city a priority. So, whether it was the foreclosure crisis, skyrocketing unemployment, disaster recovery, or even stagnant economic growth, each community that I have worked with has made it a priority to be better. And so today you guys have that choice as well to make Northglenn better. You can wag your fingers and blame each other for your failures. You can put your fingers in your ears and shout louder than each other rather than listening. Or you can keep doing what you guys have done best, and that is reaching across the divide. You guys vote together most of the time. You know what Northglenn needs, and I know that you guys can push forward. When working with communities, these choices matter. I've seen it work when people come together. And I want to leave you with one last quote, and it's a Helen Keller quote, and it's my favorite, and it's, if alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And I think that tonight, that's exactly how we need to proceed forward. Thank you again, everybody, for the service that you do, and I really appreciate what you've given to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Danelle. Kim Boswood?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. I have been sitting here tonight, and I am starting to say to myself, shame on me for not paying more attention to the city, because over time I've come to meetings, not come to meetings, and for the last few years I've not really paid attention. And that's because we, in the city of Northglenn, we depend on your expertise and your professionalism to help grow our community. And I think the community has made a lot of good, positive impacts to the city particularly in the last few years. So thank you very much to all of you for your service that you give to us as citizens of Northglenn. I do know that I know some of you probably a little bit more than others. And I will stand here and say tonight, I personally have no idea what happened with Carol Dodge, other than seeing the resignation letter. And of course, along with other individuals here tonight, I too am saddened by what has occurred. However, I do know that the city attorney either has already spoken to you as a group or will be speaking to you with recommendations. So as an individual within the city and as a HR professional, I would just like to offer up a couple of suggestions that I would like for you as a group to consider. Number one, I agree with Leslie where she said that there should be a special election, but to be fiscally responsible, perhaps maybe saving it until the November election. I was going to actually say we should do that, but I think it does make sense that you do consider doing that as part of what you would do in the fall for the city, and then allow the citizens to be able to have time to kind of figure out where we're going, what we're doing, and allow us to make those decisions. And then secondly, I would still like to offer up that you should consider having, in this would be a little bit of a fiscal responsibility on the budget, but do consider doing an independent review of the matter. I don't know that you're members with Employers Council or otherwise, but I think it's really important that you have a third-party assessment so that you can look at the conflicts that you may have on the board and how do you resolve it? How do you deal with conflict resolution so that you can come together, so that you can kind of rebuild yourselves, so that you can continue to provide the best service to the city. And in closing, I know that we will pray for peace for both Carol and Wayne Dodge and their family. And we will pray for healing and reconciliation for the council and for the city so that we never have employees or elected officials feel uncomfortable again. Because I, in the last 3 years, have been bullied. I've been bullied online, and it doesn't feel good. And I don't want anyone here to ever feel like they are a bully or have been bullied. But most importantly, we will pray for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Aaron Hart?
So I was caught a little bit off guard on this one as well. I thought I was signing up just to sign in for the meeting, but I guess I do have a few things to say, so I'll go ahead and say them. I happen to know a number of you on the council. I've had the luck to meet or at least run into a number of you in my business dealings and a variety of other things. And I'm coming into this a little bit blind. I found out about this story late last week, as many of you did, and I'm really perplexed. I have no idea what exactly has happened. Clearly, a lot of people in the room know more than I do, so maybe I'm staying out of it. But what I would love to know is what did occur here, and maybe if we could get a clearing of the air, perhaps an independent review, something that can explain why it is Mayor Dodge decided to resign for the public, I think would be of a great benefit to us all. And I don't want it to turn into a tit for tat, but if there are things that the council can be doing to improve how they do relate with one another. As I said, I've interacted with many of you before, and I've never felt bullied, pushed around. I've certainly disagreed with a few of you at times, and I'm having a hard time reconciling what I have seen today with a number of the speeches with the behavior and professional decorum that I have seen from the members of this community, not just on the council, but anybody involved in public service. So I'm confused by it, and I would like to back that suggestion that perhaps an independent review could be done to try and find that out. And I also happen to agree that it would be fiscally responsible. I don't think we need to wait terribly long, but perhaps have an election at the same time we're holding another ballot. And no offense, Mayor Pro Tem, but it'd be nice to get somebody in who everybody voted for. So I'd love to see that happen. I was born and raised in this community. I wasn't born in Northglenn. I was born just on the edge of it at 104th and Federal. And my family has been here a good long while. I've seen a lot of changes occur. I've seen a lot of fields build up to the point where I'm starting to feel like an old timer as I drive my kids around town because everywhere there used to be a field. The Dodge's sign, one that they made, adorns my business here in Northglenn. So I've had dealings with them as well, and I'd just love to see this settled in a way that I think we have done well as a city for years now, which is just to show respect to one another, to be plain, to add transparency to it as much as possible, and to try and move on and do better moving forward. But I certainly would like to learn what it is what we could do as a community to try and make this work better. I'm very sorry to hear it happen, and I'm thankful for Mayor Dodge for the service that she has rendered for these years. And I just wanted to say also that I don't attend a lot of these. The last time I was probably in Northglenn City Hall, other than filling out a permit or something like that, was probably because I was here for court as a teenager. So it's nice to be here. And the things that I've seen over the years that I've been here, I believe this city is moving in the right direction. I've seen the city improve quite a bit in the last 10 to 15 years, especially probably the last 5 to 6 years, even more so. And I'm just very thankful for the work that you all do. And I hope we continue apace with that and continue to make this a city that is extremely desirable for people to want to be, and a place that, as Danielle mentioned earlier, is a place that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. That concludes the list that I have. Is there anybody else who did not get an opportunity to sign in that wants to speak? Would you, sir, come forward, state your name for the record?
My name is John Larkin. Been in Northglenn since way before Northglenn was Northglenn. In fact, there ain't nobody here that been here longer than me. Joyce knows I used to come to her meetings over there. I've not always agreed with what goes on, okay? I've not agreed with what Carol and Wayne have done. But I know these people and I respect them a lot. I do watch this in the evening, all right? Way back when you were up there doing it, and that's what provoked me to come to your meetings. I've watched since you guys been here too, all right? A lot of you up there act like children. You're disrespectful. I don't know what you think you were voted in here to do, but you ain't doing it, all right? It's like children. Grow up, people, really. Grow up. Everybody here has been talking to you and trying to make simple sense. Nobody wants to make anybody mad. We just want you to cooperate. Like I say, Northglen's a good city. Been here a long time. I'd like to see it stay that way. And I can say for a fact, I've got no more respect for anybody on the face of this earth than I do for Wayne Dodge. I've seen that guy. He's never taken any money for doing anything they've done. Neither has Carol. When she's got to go to Washington, D.C., the mayor, out of her pocket. They're so involved with the city. I've got to pull him by the short hairs just to get him to go away from here for a little while. You know, you guys messed up, seriously. If you can't cooperate, you're in a wrong job. All of you. You know, this is a job about cooperation. It's not about competition. It's about cooperation. That's how you get stuff done. Anybody wants to argue with me later on, I'll be around. My name is John Larkin, Ward 1, young ladies. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Anybody else? Okay.
Antonio, we do have someone else.
Oh, Hamlet.
Good evening. My name is Helmut Kokot. I live over in Ward 4. And what was said so far, I'm pretty 80%, I think I agree to. But in general, I just want to bring up, we had an ordinance petition about Croak Reservoir in the city, which the city has, by poor management, ruined. And we wanted to, we went around collecting signatures, and our city accepted the petition, but then our advisor, you know, and our lawyer for working for the city completely removed the intent on sabotage that whole petition and forced it back under the control of the city, way down back. And I would say we're living in a little kingdom here. And I don't think the city is qualified to go above the state constitution in that thing. And I think it's a big mistake. I think our city attorney should resign, and several people of the city council as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Helmut. Excuse me. Anybody else? State your name and. Excuse me.
Hello, I'm Norm Jennings. I'm a Northglenn resident, and I'm on the Adams 12 School Board. I'd like to hear what you folks have to say. about this situation. I know on our school board, at the beginning of our meetings, we have a chance to do what we call vision, mission, and talk about what we've done and what we're thinking about our district. And that happens at the beginning of the meeting, because if we wait till the end, everybody's gone. And I think since we got a lot of interested people here, that I think a lot of them would like to hear, if any of you guys have any statements you'd like to make about the situation with Mayor Dodge's resignation, I think that'd be great for us to hear. And also if we could maybe move item 17B up, so that again, the crowd that's here now can listen to you guys talk about that also, instead of waiting. Frankly, I have to leave at 10 to go pick my wife up from the airport, so I'd like to be able to hear that though before I have to leave.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Do we have, I don't think we have a legislative update from the committee, do we, Julie?
No, we do not.
Okay. Financial report. Man with the money.
All right, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This is the April 2019 finance update. Start off, sales and use tax are up in the city through April, just under 8%. Some of the details you can see in the executive summary. Auto use tax is up 11.5%. Sales tax specifically is up over 5%. There's not too much excitement in our financials through April, which is, again, it's a good thing. In the general funds, total revenues are at $7.1 million. You'll see total taxes up 6%. One item to note, audit revenues up $70,000 year over year. In the other taxes line item, you'll see that. Licenses and permit revenue, right-of-way permits are down quite a bit this year. That's just the amount of work that's being done throughout the community. I will say that 2018 was a very big year for right-of-way permits, so to see that go down is not too much of a surprise. Charges for services, participation fees are down slightly, and we're working with some communication with our software system, with the rec center system, and I think we'll see that 10% change in the May report as we get some issues resolved there. Fines and forfeitures are down over 20%. But in total, total revenue in the general fund is up 3.7%, which is a good thing. On the expenditure side, in the general funds, a couple of areas to hit on. The city manager's budget that we have broken out is up 27%. That's due to things such as the employee survey, the resident survey, the 50th anniversary. Those three items specifically are in the city manager's budget, so you can see that kind of skew the year over year numbers there. And then in technology and in public works, technology, you'll see their budget, or their spending is 12% higher than in 2018 due to some equipment purchases that were planned. And then in public works, you'll see the opposite, where it's down 16%, and that's due to a large capital equipment purchase in 2018 not being on the books. Total expenditures in the fund are at $7.4 million. In the water fund, total revenues of $2.3 million and expenditures of $3.5 million. As you'll see there, water charges are basically flat year over year. Consumption is actually down 3%. If we haven't noticed that it rains every night, so there's not a lot of sprinklers on yet. On the expenditure side, everything's tracking as we would expect. You'll see a difference in capital outlay, of course, and that's just dependent upon the projects that we have going from one year to the next, but nothing really of note in the water fund. In the wastewater fund, total revenues of $1.2 million with expenditures of $1.6 million. You'll see wastewater charges for services. Those are up 7.85%. That's planned with the rate increases that we've implemented. On the expenditure side, in that fund, there's nothing to note. And then in the stormwater fund, total revenues of $124,000 and expenditures of $29,000. Again, there were no rate changes in the stormwater, so we'll see flat revenue. And then expenditures tracking with the budget based on what we had planned for the year. And then lastly, in the sanitation fund, again, no changes in those fees. You'll see that those are flat. Recycling revenue is up slightly year over year. And then total expenditures of $171,000. Those are tracking on the solid waste collection side of things. One thing to note on the revenues, you'll see throughout each fund, investment earnings are quite a bit higher than they were year over year. Some of the market has changed. We've kind of gotten away from some of our longer term 2 to 4 year investments have rolled off the books, and we've started to invest in some things with rates being a little bit higher. Of course, you watch the news and they're talking about the Fed cutting the rates maybe as early as July. So we'll continue to monitor that, but investment earnings for the city are trending positively. Page 8, the cash and investments total is $68 million for the city, and that's up from $61 million at the same time in 2018. And then on page 11, the sales tax collected by a geographic code within the city. You'll see most every location is up. In total, we're up 7% within the city. We talk from time to time about out-of-state businesses and kind of the online businesses, but you'll see that the city itself is doing quite well, being up 7% with sales and use tax. With that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Questions? No questions?
All right, great, thank you.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
No questions, but comment.
Okay.
I was looking at page 11,
Okay.
item number 8. Here on 104th. 2017, 83,000. 2018, 121,000. 19, 237,000. Says a lot. That says a lot about the Huron Center.
Indeed.
Thank you, Nura. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, community. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
You want to open the vote?
Okay, so, want to open the vote? It is open? Thank you, I'm sorry. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. No items were removed from the consent agenda. Public hearings. Joanne, would you read the title?
This is for CB 1927, a bill for a special ordinance amending the 2019 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the city of Northglenn, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning on January 1, 2019.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who would wish to testify for or against? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. Ordinances, second reading. Joanna? Well, we need a motion to approve CB 1927 on
So
second
moved.
reading.
So moved.
Been moved to second?
Again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Heather, will you expand on that?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. This item is a special ordinance to amend the 2019 operating and capital improvement budget. The amendments that are outlined in this memorandum are associated with the CIP carryover of 2018 appropriations, as well as itemization of additional revenues and expenditures. Jason Loveland, our finance director, is here this evening and be happy to answer any questions that you have about any of the specific items that are itemized, included in the staff memorandum.
Okay. Joanne, would you open the vote? Or do you want to have a discussion? Does anybody want to discuss this?
I have no confidence.
All good?
The vote is open.
Thank you, Joanne. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1927 on second reading passes unanimously.
The ordinance is first reading, CB 1923. Joanne, would you?
So this is a bill for an ordinance adding a new Article 18 to Chapter 18 of the Northglenn Municipal Code entitled Short-Term Rental Properties.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion?
Give it to Debbie, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. This item's being heard on first reading this evening. We do have a public hearing, second reading scheduled for June 24th in a couple of weeks. Staff is here and happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions from council? Julie?
I have a quick question. So is this something that we're still going to be talking about? Is the city issued license? Because it has to be obtained. What are the fees for that? Did we clear that up? Do we know?
So the fees have not been presented to City Council yet. They will be presented in line with the second reading and the adoption of the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it? No vote.
Please vote.
Oh, please vote. Okay, please vote. Vote is open. Thank you.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1923 on first reading passes unanimously.
CB 1928, Joanne?
A bill for an ordinance amending Articles 13 and 17 of Chapter 16 of the Northglenn Municipal Code in compliance with the city's latest municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 permit.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. Again, this item is on first reading, so staff does not have a formal presentation this evening. However, staff is available to answer any questions. Generally speaking, these amendments are being brought forward to gain compliance with the appropriate permits that we have for our stormwater program ordinance.
Any questions from council? Open the vote, Joanne.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1928 on first reading passes unanimously.
CB 1929, Joanne?
A bill for an ordinance amending Sections 9-8-1 and 18-2-10 of the Northglenn Municipal Code concerning 3.2% beer.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar. I'd ask that City Clerk Joanna Small provide you with information on this item.
So just a quick update, since it's on first reading, Senate Bill 18-243, which took effect January 1 of 2019, eliminated the maximum alcohol content limit in fermented malt beverages, which was previously referred to as 3.2% beer. You may have noticed when you were in some convenience stores or grocery stores lately that instead of selling 3.2% beer, they are now selling full-strength beer. That is related to this change. And so because of that, the city's ordinance needs to be updated to conform to the definition that's in the state liquor and beer code.
Any discussion, any questions? Okay, open the vote, please.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1929 on first reading passes unanimously.
Okay, CB 1930.
A bill for a special ordinance approving a franchise agreement between the City of Northglenn and Public Service Company of Colorado to provide gas and electricity service in the City of Northglenn pursuant to the terms of such franchise agreement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar. As the memo indicates, we are bringing forward a proposed franchise with Public Service Company of Colorado, also commonly referred to as Excel Energy. This evening, we do have Preston Gibson, our local area manager, along with his legal counsel, Dudley Spiller, in the audience. No formal presentation this evening. However, there will be a presentation on June 24th. This proposed franchise does have a 20-year term consistent with previous agreements, and this franchise covers the 6.5 square miles in the immediate vicinity of the city, not that property that we hold in Weld County that is covered by a United Power franchise agreement.
Any questions for, any discussion? John, would you open the vote?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1930 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to state for the public that the public hearings on CB 1923, 1928, 1929, and 1930 will be held on June 24th, 2019, here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Moving to resolutions, CR 57. Joanne, would you read it?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and Element Water Consulting Incorporated for the Integrated Water Resources Plan Project.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escobar. This evening, we have Tamara Moon, our Water Resources Administrator, with us, and so I'm going to ask her to provide a general overview of the purpose of this planning effort in protection and long-term planning for our overall water infrastructure.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, or Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. In 2007, the City of Northglenn hired CDM, a consulting firm, to come in and evaluate the city's water supply, demand, use, look at conservation programs and ways the city could improve our water supply, grow our water supply, and also at the same time decrease our water demands. Since that 2007 evaluation and subsequent integrated water resource plan was developed, we have had a number of changes in our water supply system, as well as new developments in conservation programming and that sort of thing. And so this integrated water resource plan update that we're proposing to have Element Water perform for us will essentially take the CDM report from 2007 and update it and make it more applicable to the city's existing water supply, evaluate new things that are coming down the pipe as far as conservation programming, looking at opportunities from Colorado Water Conservation Board, as well as integrating the aquifer storage and recovery program that we are currently doing a pilot study on, so that we have additional water supply, and that we will also start looking at alternative supply sources, or they will evaluate alternative supply sources so that we can grow our water rights portfolio for the city. So kind of that's the background and the basis for this particular project.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Off easy, thank you. You open the vote, Joanne?
The vote is open.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 57 passes unanimously.
CR 58, would you read the title, Joanne?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and Providence Infrastructure Consultants for engineering services for the Lift Station A and Force Main project.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved in second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. These two pieces are critical to our overall wastewater infrastructure system that we have here in Northglenn. Last week, City Council heard an update on our overall progress that we're making with water infrastructure projects along with wastewater infrastructure projects. I would like Kent Kisselman, our Public Works Director, to provide council with a brief overview about what this work is about.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you. So yes, the lift station A is our main lift station for our city. It takes, about 90% of our wastewater directly and pushes it up to our wastewater treatment plant. And it's been deteriorating over time, and we have many issues with it, and the E&M staff continues to work on that daily. So it's past its life cycle. In addition to that, we'd like to replace 2 miles of the force main. And that 2 miles would be within our city limits and try to get it, one, away from the new RRP line where it is currently and put it within our municipal boundary. And that 2 miles will generally get rid of the force part of it, which is the uphill portion, and get us to a point where we can utilize the gravity system for the rest of the pipe. And when we have an opportunity in the future, we'll look at coordinating with Thornton and getting the rest of that pipeline evaluated and potentially replaced. We put this out for bid. We did interviews with firms, and we ultimately selected Providence Infrastructure to perform the work. And if you'll recall, Providence also did our work on the Headworks project, so they're very familiar with our system. We do recommend approval of this. It is budgeted. We have a timeline in there, so if we get approval, then we'll do notice to proceed. We hope by the end of the year to have 30% drawings. We'll have to submit all that stuff to the state for approval. We'll work simultaneously getting a CMAR contractor on board, and you are becoming pretty familiar with the CMAR process now, where we want to get those folks on early and help us get a quality project on. Final design in 2020, construction start next September, and complete that entire project in a few years.
Any questions for Ken? Marcy?
And so when we had the discussion at the study session, just want to ask, I think you mentioned that when we're doing the lift station A, that you'll build new part in the same area.
Yes.
What happens to the old?
Well, there's currently a wet well that's right beside the lift station now. And we want to utilize that existing wet well as part of the new station. The old station, once it's done, then we'll have to, decommission that station and see what is salvageable out of that and what we can use, around in our other projects.
Anyone else? Ryan, would you open the vote?
The vote is open.
Please vote. Thank you.
I'll close that vote, and CR 58 passes unanimously.
Thank you, Kent. CR 59. Ryan, would you read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and KECI Colorado Incorporated for the School Zone Improvements Project.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. City Manager Guyer?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. This evening, we're presenting 2 studies that were completed for Stuckey Elementary School and Global Village Academy, Stuckey Elementary School, part of Adams 12 5-star schools. Global Village Academy is a state charter school. I'll ask Kent Kisselman, our Public Works Director, to come up and provide you with an overview of each plan as proposed in your packet. Staff has been working collaboratively with Adams 12 5-star schools in presenting improvements of both plans for both schools and receive feedback, which is incorporated into what you see today. So with that, Kent, if you'll provide an overview for council.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council again. So yes, as Heather mentioned, we did the assessment on this, and this is the construction portion of the project. One for Global Village and the other for Stuckey Elementary. We competitively bid these and did receive the bid from KECI. In your packet are the photos or the design plans that were sent out. So they're along Global Village. There'll be, some rapid flashing lights, better signage throughout the project on the backside of Global Village into the school. We'll make propose a new access, so it's better in and out of the school. Again, more striping, better signage, upgraded crosswalks in the area. And that's kind of what's going to happen at Global Village. There's much more, and we can make that plan available online, and we'll make our project sheet and put that up on our new project website as we get this project going. For Stuckey, do I have that one? Yes. So that project will again consist of upgrading the signage in the area, improving the sidewalk and pedestrian access for the children, painting some hug-and-go lanes, some no parking signs or no parking curbs, where we paint those red and try to get the drop-off parents to comply and not block parking lanes and driveways. And that's, the Stuckey one is fairly straightforward and should be good. Our project timeline on this is been appropriated. We do have budget. We did put a 10% contingency on the project. Once we get contract approval, we'll get a construction start date in later this month. And this needs to be completed, of course, before the next school year, so it needs to be completed before August. There is one portion of that may be on Global Village with the rapid flashing beacons. There may be a lead time on those. We may, again, set the posts and the poles, but I don't know until we begin negotiation with the contractor of exactly when we'll be able to get those. But we'll try to expedite that, again, to get the project completed before the school year starts.
Questions from council? Marston?
So we've brought this up before, and I mentioned it to Heather that it's not in the plan. She gave me a heads up, but I'd like her to share with the rest of council. We've had an issue with residents that have called and expressed concerns about the bus stop that just drops kids off in the middle of the street at 114th and Melody. Something that we've told the residents over there that we were going to be addressing for a couple of years. So I'm pretty disappointed to see that it's not reflected in here when it's something that goes back to even when Jim Hayes was here. So it's something that we've discussed, we've brought it up numerous times, and just a little disappointed not to see it included in here. I think it really needs to get addressed. I personally went out and sat there when the residents called and watched, and they do drop them off in the middle of the street. It's at the side, but there's no crosswalk, so they're walking in the middle, and the timing of when that happens at the same time that all the parents are dropping off to Global Village. So it's a pretty unsafe environment for the kids to be getting off on and off the school bus. So I would really like to see us continue the conversation and make sure that.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitman. I did speak with Pat Hamilton this afternoon, and there is a disconnect between what the district has shared with us in terms of the exact location of the bus stop relative to what you've experienced firsthand and what others in the community have experienced. So we will definitely reconcile that disconnect as part of the improvements and work with the district to install crosswalks where appropriate to make sure that we have the pedestrian safety in mind. Like I mentioned, I did get confirmation from Pat Hamilton this afternoon of where that exact location for the bus stop is on Melody Drive. I did raise these concerns to the school district back in the fall. They've carried into the conversations that we've had with the district and a team of their traffic team that Kent and I have met with on an ongoing basis. So I think we're on the right track with that level of collaboration, but we do need to reconcile this to connect. So my apologies that wasn't cleared up for this evening.
Julie?
I have two things. First off, I think that these improvements around Global Village are much needed. That area gets very hectic and very dangerous for our kids. One thing I wanted to ask you, Heather, is do we have, or have you heard an updated timeline at all about Global Village and if they're going to be leaving in the next couple of years?
I do not have updated information. I can follow up with Debbie Tuttle, our economic development manager. She's been trying to reach out to them to get that information, and so I'll see if she has anything, and I will share that with City Council.
Okay. And then my other question would be, I see that in the future project, are you guys looking at adding back that crosswalk off of Community Center Drive and essentially the kind of Melody because Melody ends on that side, on the south side of Community Center Drive. And then, because I do still see some people who park in that area and make a run for it, even though there's many signs that say don't do that. And so I'm wondering have you guys looked at possibly adding back that crosswalk, especially since we're looking at that park on that side?
Yeah, we did look at that as part of this. At this time, with the park not being specific of when we would do that, it really kind of gives you that lead to nowhere scenario that we had previously. So at this time, we wouldn't recommend putting that back in. It's a mid-block crossing. And again, without the proper, signalization, such as what's at Larson, like a hawk signal, that could definitely stop that. I mean, we've all seen the crossing guard that puts out the cone and the slow down sign. And we want to discourage that from them acting as crossing guards in our right-of-way and that sort of fashion. So it would be a significant cost to upgrade that area. And with the unknowns of Global Village, I think it's kind of a wait-and-see thing, see what happens with them, see what happens with the development of the park. And absolutely, on anything that we install as far as a flasher now, those are solar-powered, and we could reuse those and move those to a new location. So those will be reusable.
Awesome, thank you.
Anybody else? Joanne, would you open the vote?
The vote is open.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 59 passes unanimously.
Okay, CR 62. Joanne, would you read the title?
A resolution approving addendum number 1 to the professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and DHM Design Corporation for design services for the Northwest Open Space Improvements Project.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. When this contract was originally approved by City Council, it didn't allow for this type of addendum. That's why it's being brought back to you in the amount of the $18,700 that you see. Amanda Peterson, our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, is here this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Discussion? You open the vote, Joanne?
The vote is open.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 62 passes unanimously.
Okay. Number 17, discussion item. Mattress program update.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. City Council previously requested that I bring back an update on the status of the mattress disposal program, and so you have a memo included in your packet that outlines the total number of mattresses, box springs that have been disposed since the ordinance change late last summer. There's a total of 380 mattresses that have been disposed. 308 of those were picked up curbside. certified, 61 were dropped off by residents, 11 were dumped illegally. The city paid approximately $7,410, which does not include labor, vehicle, or fuel costs, and residents have been billed approximately $11,915. Kent Kisselman, our Director of Public Works, and myself were here to answer any specific questions you might have about this program, but otherwise, this was asked to be brought back as a discussion item.
Questions, Meredith?
So of the 11 that were dumped illegally, is there a pattern or a trend, or are there hot spots for this?
Thank you again. I'll have to find out. I don't have hotspot information. I think, they do track that, the sanitation and Keith and the group, they take photos of everything that they pick up that's illegal, and so I can easily access that and get that information out to you. But 11 out of 380, that seems pretty good, and, so we're pleased with that. And I think that was an initial concern with the program, and so it's kind of been mitigated in that area, so it's been a well-received program.
I also think that's great. I just was wondering,
Right.
because if they are being dumped in kind of the same place, then we need to do something about that location. I can think of a spot in Thornton that lots of stuff gets dumped because they're not tending to that, and so I don't want to be known for the spot that you drop your stuff.
Yeah, that's great. We'll find out and we'll get that
Okay.
information.
Marcy?
Just to clarify, the 11 were legally dumped that we took care of, correct? Not any that were reported from being dumped at businesses?
Yeah, those are the 11 that we picked up. So if they put them in like another 2-yard dumpster in the back of the thrift store or whatever, and the recycling or the waste management comes and picks those up, we're not tracking those.
My reason for pointing that out is we had issues behind Malley in which a number of mattresses were being left at the business, and unfortunately, Melody Building is another one. We also tend to get a ton of water heaters, and that kind of stuff adds up for the business owner and is passed along to the tenants, so. I think the number's higher than that, but that's what the city took.
Correct.
I do know in talking with staff that some of the illegal dumping is at Northwest Open Space, our recycling containers out here in the parking lot of City Hall. So I know that's captured in that 11, but Ken can certainly get more specifics for you.
I don't necessarily think I need more specifics. I'm just trying to clarify that 11 is what the city took care of, but we also have to consider what businesses have to take care of by people illegally dumping in their dumpsters.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay. Process for filling the vacancy at the office of mayor. Corey Hoffman?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I thought I would try to summarize what's in the legal memorandum that I provided to you that sets forth the process for filling the mayoral vacancy. I want to start with the charter is effectively our constitution. So we look to the charter first and then the code. So the charter governs over the municipal code if there's any ambiguity. That's important because Section 3.8 of the charter specifically says that vacancies on council, and council includes the mayor, by definition, serve until the next general municipal election, which is this November. With that said, there is also a process in our municipal code for filling a vacancy in the mayor. And that process is that council selects one of its members to serve as the mayor, again, until the next regular municipal election, so until November. If council does not do so, then a special election would be conducted. But because of what state law and our code provides, that election can't be held within 90 days of the November election, which means if you wanted to conduct a special election for the mayoral vacancy, it would have to occur no later than August 7th. And that special election, the city clerk has estimated the cost at roughly $55,000. That special election would be only to have the vacancy filled until November. So if you choose to select a mayor from the remaining 8 of you, which is the first option under the code, that person serves until November, and then the mayor, a 4-year term would be starting in November for the mayoral position. One thing that's important, though, is it takes 5 votes to appoint a new mayor. So even if there is less than the full 8 of you, it takes a majority of the entire council, which means it takes 5 votes to fill the mayoral vacancy. If you choose to fill the vacancy from amongst yourselves, that creates a vacancy on council. And there is also a process in the municipal code for filling the vacancy on council. And again, that vacancy would be until November. And that involves a specific application process. So you actually have to provide notice and a 14-day time period to accept applications. So I have suggested in the memo, if you choose to go that route, rather than, again, having a special election, which would have to occur by August 7th, that would be allow for that selection at the July 22nd, 2019 meeting, assuming that you fill the mayoral vacancy at the next meeting on June 24th. I'm happy to answer any questions. It's sort of a domino effect of filling the mayoral vacancy and then having to fill the vacancy on council. Or again, the city council could certainly have that special election, but it would be only to serve about 3 months.
Any questions for Corey? Really?
It's a process that we have to go
Process.
through and determine what we want to do. But for me, I don't support a special election just because the general election is coming up in November. I really don't want to spend taxpayers' money to do this. It's unfortunate that we are going through this process, but I think we still have to be fiscally conscious about what we do. So for me, I think we should appoint from council to select the next mayor. Right now, that's my opinion.
Jordan?
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. I second that. I couldn't agree more. I have a quick question about what it looks like for Mayor Pro Tem, how we would then move forward with the deciding of, I guess, both positions and how the application process looks and when that individual would be appointed to council as well.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No. First of all, our mayor pro tem, under the charter, is only allowed to serve as mayor in the event of a disability or an absence of the mayor. So the mayor pro tem can't serve by definition until the next election. So that's one of the nuances in the charter. What our charter says is the mayor pro tem is selected at the next organizational meeting. Obviously, that doesn't apply because we can't wait till after the next election. So what would happen is once you have a full council again, you would just vote to appoint the next mayor pro tem in the same manner that the current mayor pro tem was selected at the last organizational meeting. So once you have the full council again, you can make that selection.
Point of clarification one more time, sorry, Corey. So the mayor pro tem couldn't step up and serve that role for the remainder until November, that is correct?
Correct. The current mayor pro tem could be selected by you as the mayor using the process I outlined, but the mayor pro tem cannot serve without being appointed until the next election.
And so therefore, it would create a vacancy in Ward 4, since the mayor pro tem is from Ward 4.
If the council selected the current mayor pro tem
Right.
as the mayor, then it would create a vacancy in Ward 4. That's correct.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And what is the timeline for the application process and then appointment of a new council member?
So if the city council selects the next mayor at the June 24th meeting, so 2 weeks from tonight, then we would be able to get a notice in the newspaper that would, basically, it would be the July 3rd newspaper, and I think it's got a fourth, it comes out on the 3rd, is that correct, Joanna?
Correct.
So that it comes out on the 3rd, which would have a notice saying that the city council is taking applications for 14 days. That would take us through July 17th. And so sometime between July 17th and July 22nd, the city would have a process, whatever that process is, so that by July 22nd, it could select the new council member at its regular meeting. Neither our charter, our code, or state law has any specific process. So council has in the past conducted interviews. It's not required, but ultimately you need to, from the time the applications close until the date of July 22nd, have a process for determining who to appoint on July 22nd.
So, Corey, do we have to fill that vacant position immediately? Or can we wait until November?
You cannot wait until November. It would be vacant for too long, and you would have the same issue where you would have to conduct a special election. And that special election would have to occur by August 7th.
Thank you.
Marcy?
And is the process of filling that open council seat public? And should we decide to do interviews, those are held public? and
Correct. They
filmed?
cannot be an executive session under state law.
Julie?
I support what Joyce and Jordan are for as well. I don't think a special election makes sense, just for that one person to serve for 3 months. And the cost is a lot for that. So I support that we choose from council and then, fill the vacancy as it comes down.
Any?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I, too, do not support a special election. I think November is 5 months away, and that's, I think that we can appoint from council and let whomever wants to run for mayor run for the municipal election.
And I do want to make one other point of clarification that I just, as you're looking at this, and that is the person that is selected to be mayor loses their council seat, just so that's clear. So that person, if their term was not up in November, would lose the last 2 years of their term.
But they may be elected as mayor, so I mean.
Absolutely,
you
but
know,
the point is that you are, once you are appointed mayor, you are no longer a city council member serving your term in your ward.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Corey, so how does that work then with the election in November? Is that only for a 2-year term to fill out the former mayor's term?
No,
or is that for a new 4-year?
because the mayor's not staggered. So each of the wards is staggered, but the mayor it can be a full 4-year term.
Okay, got it.
Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. One more question. Can we speak a little bit about the process in which we would create to appoint a new individual if we decided on interviews and public session, how that would look and when we would decide that formally, and then obviously have it in paper so we can move forward when calling for this vacancy?
So the applications close on the 17th if you follow this process. And so you're going to have a fairly quick timeframe, which includes a weekend, but it's really up to council how you do that. We will certainly distribute the applications once the applications close. And then again, you've got basically 2 working days and 2 weekend days before your July 22nd meeting. And, you can certainly schedule special meetings if you'd like. It would certainly help to have the process outlined so that if you're going to have interviews, you can identify that in the notice.
So I got confused between the 22nd and the 24th and the 17th. And so there's applications
So
for
two-
the city.
So two separate processes.
Thank you.
June 24th is when the mayoral appointment would be made. That creates a vacancy that night on the city council.
So is there an application process for that?
There's not for the mayoral process, only
Okay.
for the city council process.
So
And
what
the
did the
code specifically contemplates that.
What did the 17th have to do with anything?
So if you have the vacancy on June 24th,
Okay,
by getting a notice in the newspaper after that, the soonest we can get the notice in the newspaper that starts the 14-day time frame is July 3rd. Under our code, the application process is 14 days. So
Okay.
that takes us from July 3rd to July 17th. And that's,
you.
and then you
That's
have
what
your
I missed.
applications in and you
Got
have the days to deal with them before the 22nd.
okay. Can we not make the decision tonight? We have to wait till the 24th?
It is not on the agenda for action.
Gordon?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Another question is, besides the posting in our newspaper at that time, can we develop a plan, or is there a plan in place to obviously disseminate this information to make sure that individuals are aware of it, obviously starting today on, that this application would come, or there's going to be a potential vacancy? In addition, obviously, the conversation about what has occurred for the city, for the residents to have a lot of questions in kind of this process that we've been made aware of this evening.
Well, tonight's discussion is to inform staff of the process you seek to use. I mean, much like the process, for example, when you were selecting the municipal judge, this is a council process. So certainly the staff can assist in helping to put together a process, put together information, in addition to what would be in the newspaper. We can certainly put it on the website. But really, this is your process. So you tell us what you need from us, and we will implement it.
Great. I just want to make sure that obviously we're disseminating the information, gives residents enough time to be able to look at this and apply with enough information to understand what this looks like as well, what the term looks like and why we are here.
So, just to kind of weigh in on this a little bit, we can't make any assumptions from the mayor pro tem or anyone that that person is going to be stepping up to be mayor. So, I mean, this is first of all, I think whoever is thinking about becoming mayor needs to absorb this process, because if you put your hat in the ring, then there's not a guarantee that you'll win, and you may lose your council seat, whoever it might be, So just for clarification that way, and I don't know that anybody right now is comfortable saying yes or no right now. I haven't felt that, but I don't know. No one's really, So that's something we need to determine within the next 2 weeks too, who wants to put their hat in the ring. And then from then on, then it's going to be the vacancy of that ward. It could be Ward 2, it could be Ward 3, it could be any of the wards, so.
And that's
It doesn't have to be the mayor pro tem. I'm just, so, so.
And that's actually what the city clerk whispered in my ear, is that one of the difficulties in getting too much information out until June 24th
Right.
is we don't know the ward.
That's
So we
right.
don't know what the qualifications would be for the person to fill the vacancy.
Right.
And just really quickly, so through the application process to fill the council seat, that is a just till November seat.
Correct. And one other thing, I mean, if council wanted to expedite the process of the mayoral appointment, certainly you have a study session next Monday night. You could have a special meeting as part of the June 17th meeting, select your mayor at that point, and that would certainly expedite the process, add a little bit of time for the selection of the next person, the person to fill the vacancy on council.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Antonio.
Go ahead.
So about the process of filling the council member vacancy, I do advocate for, do we have an application currently? Would we work on that?
We have one
Has
from
this
the
happened
last.
before?
We did have a vacancy in 2009, I think it was. So
Okay.
we
Great.
should have documents that just needed a little
Okay.
bit of refreshing.
And then one thing I would like to see, I would like to see a interview process. So if we could, I don't know, somehow make sure that that fits in somewhere in the schedule of time, I'd appreciate that. I think that would be a really good value add.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So as I'm looking at the 17th, which is a Wednesday, we would then turn around and do interviews and appoint somebody new on the 22nd. I'm just worried that that doesn't feel like very much time to be really thoughtful and consider each applicant and thoroughly interview them. And so I'm wondering, can we give ourselves more time, or is that the hard and fast deadline?
The hard and fast deadline, I believe, is that Wednesday. It's 30 days from, however, you could, if you want additional time, you could move up the mayoral
To next Monday.
vacancy, and that might give you a little more time. I haven't done the calculation of the various timeframes, but it might give you a little more time.
So, just a comment, and this is more a selfish thing for me, but I cannot be here on the 17th for family reasons. And we also had a council person that is out of town for family issues. So I'm concerned that we wouldn't have a full council to be voting on the mayor.
I mean, you could theoretically set a special meeting for Thursday night, July 18th, to conduct interviews. You could also do it over the weekend.
Jenny?
So that would be the deadline for council applications on the 17th and a special meeting for interviews on the 18th. And then deliberation and.
All of the
As soon as
deliberation under Colorado law has to be in public, so
Which
yeah.
is fine, I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. I have some anxiety about there being a 24-hour turnaround between receiving final applications and interviews and wanting to be really thoughtful and thorough.
Exactly.
So your deadline is July 24th, as opposed to July 22nd. So theoretically, you could have interviews on the 22nd and have a special meeting on the 24th to appoint. I mean, you have within that time frame, but your deadline is July 24th, if you make the mayoral appointment on June 24th.
I don't like June 20, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I've been.
Go ahead.
Just want to clarify. So we didn't do the 17th, and we didn't do the 18th. Could we do a weekend interview, and then, are you saying that we would then not do the 22nd, so we had the time to think about it, but then a special on the 23rd, so it's done by the 24th, or?
It is entirely up to council. Your sort of parameters are between
I'm
this.
just asking if the weekend thing was in there, and we were saying, and add another special.
If we do a weekend, and then we could have the decision by the 22nd, and then we don't have to have a special meeting.
Do we know when Council Member
haven't
Brown
heard.
will be back?
Last I heard, I believe on the 18th, but I'd have to confirm that with her.
Okay, well, my question I was going to ask, if we had a study session on the 17th of June, these 17s get me confused, jumping between July and June. But we had a study, well, we're going to have a study session. If we put that on the agenda, and we did a straw poll there as to whether somebody had the 5 votes to be mayor, and would that give us more time in seating
Either way, it's 30 days.
It's the same thing? Okay. We're talking about July didn't work,
I
so.
know, but I'm just a little comfortable about straw vote type comment, so, or consensus, is that what you're looking for? or-
Well, just if it gave more time, it seemed that there was a concern about seating the replacement or the ward member.
However, we can have a special meeting any day of the week, so, if Becky's gonna be back around the 18th, we could even have it on the 19th or 20th. Right, Cory?
That's also the same time as the Colorado Municipal League, which many of us have already paid.
Yeah.
So one of the issues that the city clerk was talking to me about is that the July 3rd publication date is triggered by the Sentinel's publication dates. We could use a different newspaper, such as the Denver Post, and get it in earlier. I don't know if people read the legal notice provisions of the Sentinel or not. We could certainly provide other forums for notice, but that July 3rd date is dictated by the Sentinel's publication dates. And there are other newspapers, obviously, that are daily.
Mayor Pro Tem Escabel, Councilmember Becky Brown via text messages indicated that she's returning to Northglenn on June 22nd.
So if council wants to provide additional time for the process, by publishing in a different newspaper, in addition to getting it out on social media and getting it out on the website, we could start the clock ticking much sooner, because it would be as soon as we could get the ad in after the June 24th mayoral appointment, if you use that date.
I would like that.
Yeah, I think that could work.
Important.
Couldn't we reach out to the news media as far as, whoever you talk to in the advertising to place an ad and say, hold the space? I don't know, but couldn't you work with them to see, but they won't do that?
It's all about the calendar and when the city council meetings fall and when their deadlines occur. We missed the deadline for the Northglenn Thornton Sentinel that following Thursday after a council meeting, and so that's what takes it into the next week.
Okay.
So that's why maybe the suggestion of a different publication would be
Okay, yeah, I didn't know, I
better.
just thought.
Yeah.
So it would be the vote then on the 24th with everyone here.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Along that same line, I think it's important that if we do post in the Denver Post, I would like to also see it in other media outlets, such as El Comercio, and a lot of the other local publications as well, to make sure that we're drawing from our diverse community.
Johnny?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have another question in terms of how the process works from here on out. So we'll have a study session on June 17th, and then we'll have a council meeting on the 24th. And so on the 24th, do we then have a resolution appointing this person to be the mayor without a name? Or is there a discussion that happens in the meantime? I want everybody to have time to fully consider their options, and to do so publicly.
You can certainly have a discussion if you'd like at the June 17th study session, if that's your preference, with action on June 24th.
But you will have two council people not here to have input.
Or you'll be out on the 17th as well?
The 17th is when I will be, yeah.
Got it,
so.
okay. So did we agree on something yet? So 24th for the mayoral, and then we're gonna post in a different newspaper on the 25th for the.
Maybe the 26th.
26th, thank you. 26th.
for the ward vacancy. So then applications will be due on the 10th, am I right?
July 10th.
Okay, so then that gives us a good 2 weeks-ish to make our decision and do, interviews and make sure we have enough time to do everything. So we could either call a special meeting on the 24th, or we could, if we schedule everything appropriately, we could do it on the 22nd, not a regular meeting.
And you also have a study session in between now on July 15th.
Yep. What do people think?
Is it clear?
Make sense?
Clear for
Clear's good? Clear's mine?
tonight.
Clear's
We
good?
know we've got a June 24th mayoral appointment, which will trigger getting the publication going. We'll get the application documents. And I would suggest perhaps that, we'll keep you apprised as we kind of develop the process, but you let us know ultimately when you want to have interviews. And it may depend. I have no idea how many applicants you'll get. I don't know how much time to allocate.
I think it just seems fair as part of this process, when we're doing the interview, to be telling them, here's the date that we're expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, we do the same thing with our judges. We do the same with everybody else that we're doing an interview process. So to put it out there and then not say, this is the day that you're gonna have an interview, just doesn't feel fair.
Would you like to do interviews on the 15th, which would be your study session date?
I would either
Yeah.
propose a 15th or a special.
I like 15th.
I think the 15th makes sense.
You are. This is the most important. I think I can move that. We don't.
Okay. So it'll be coupled with your comprehensive plan update that night. That's the one big item.
Okay. I like 15th.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So 2 more questions. One is, Joanna, will you be sending us the 2009 application for, review and comment? Or is that something that we'll add to the study session agenda next week?
Either way.
Does anyone have any feelings about that?
You could just send it via email, and we could just review it, see if anyone has anything to say. I have no idea what to expect, so.
Yeah, we can send it out.
And then we can
Okay.
have that, I think we need the discussion.
Yeah,
anyway.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
still want the discussion
So the
piece to
next-
happen. Yeah, on the 15th.
Okay.
And then, are we going to interview everybody or only our top candidates?
Depends how many you have, too.
Oh.
Personally,
Marcy?
I personally think that you interview all of them.
I think so.
Okay, so
Great.
do we have a plan?
I think we have a plan.
Okay. You wanna-
Does everyone, do you want me to try to restate the plan, or do we?
Please.
Okay,
Just to clarify.
Clarify the plan.
I may regret this.
Okay.
So the mayoral appointment will occur on June 24th. On June 26th, publication will be posted in a number of media outlets, but including the Denver Post, which we know qualifies as a newspaper of general circulation, which would qualify under our charter and our ordinances, as well as social media. The applications will be open until July 10th. And the applications will include, or the notice will include, reference that interviews will occur on July 15th. Interviews will occur on July 15th, and then the selection will be made on July 22nd to fill the resulting council vacancy from the mayoral appointment.
Sounds good.
Okay. We're all good?
Good.
Good.
All right?
Got it.
Everybody got that?
Gonna wait for the schedule from Cory.
I will, I'll put out something tomorrow. I'll send something to council in the morning, just
Okay,
summarizing.
that moves us Moves us to communications. We'll start with you, Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The only thing I have tonight is I'd really like to thank our former mayor for her time and dedication to the city, and I look forward to moving this great city forward.
I went to the summer kickoff iron pour thing, and that was probably the coolest thing ever. So I just wanted to thank Summer for her hard work. I know she took a great idea and ran with it and did an amazing job facilitating that whole process. And it was just, it was fun. And Stephen as well, working on his birthday, I guess. And, but the community feel for that event, and every, adult and kid got to make a super cool iron image. Did you make one?
Yeah, remember?
Yeah.
It was pathetic, but I did it.
I don't know, it was super fun. And then the band was great, and the food trucks were awesome, and so it was just overall, just a really nice night. So thank you to the city for hosting that.
Yep. And just to add, I was there, and it was a lot of fun to do that, and I believe it was, we were the original or the only city in the area that have done an iron pour. So we are again one of the first ones, which is really cool. And then the concert, of course, was wonderful, as always. And then I do want to thank the mayor for all her service to the city. This is really an unfortunate night that we have to do this.
I ditto that. So I did on Friday, I guess that was Friday. Anyway, it was the fishing derby, Saturday. And we're going to have before us, 4-year-old who caught a 13.5-inch trout. She was the winner of the biggest trout. I don't remember, I've seen 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and I haven't seen a 4-year-old.
We've even had them
This is gonna be
younger.
exciting.
Yeah.
Julie
It's fun.
Malika, the councilwoman member Malika, helped me with that, and we had a great time. It was the first time doing it, and it was a lot of fun. I attended some bill signings. Very significant one was at the Pete Mireles Human Services Building, where Governor Polis came in and signed 10 bills. And that's the most bills in any one location that he has signed. In the following few days, we had bill signing for 2 of Representative Malika's bills here at the Sisters of Leavenworth Hospital. Both exciting events. But I think the one I really enjoyed was this, the ARC coming to Adams County. They're in Adams County, they're in Thornton, but they're coming to Northglenn. And they employ over 300 people with disabilities. The ARC is doing great work. The CEO is a wonderful person, very visionary for the community, our community, and the community of those who need that type of support. The store is immaculate, bright lights, beautiful layout. City manager was there, Councilwoman Wilford was there. It was just awesome. So if you haven't visited the ARC, you're missing something. I almost bought stuff. My wife said, don't do that. Marcy?
So I'm going to start tonight with the anything, just a reminder that the My Summer program started last week at all of the branches. You can get online and look at the brochure. It outlines all of the activities for kids, teens, and adults. Also want to just mention that their backyard concert series starts on the 14th of this month, starting with Union Gray, and those are held at Wright Farms. And then I have something that I want to read. Because if I do this by just talking, then I'm definitely not going to keep it clean. So at the study session last Monday night, I thought it was best to hold my thoughts before saying things I shouldn't, so I stayed quiet and I left quickly. What bothered me most of that is that this was started because council members were provided info without other council as a whole receiving that same information. That was passed along through staff. It's no surprise members of council were privy in advance, wanted to bring this information forward. It was said that it should not be politicized, and I just have to say, are you kidding me? It was absolutely politicized by the two nominees that were nominated, let me remind you, by residents. I held my tongue at that point, but only because I didn't have anything nice to say. We have a current council member who disregards their role as a liaison to the North Metro Fire District since being appointed on November 27, 2017. An individual has attended once since the appointment. The city's partnership with the fire district is important to this community and should not be taken for granted. The resolution that we signed on November 27th appointing this individual at the end says, or at such time a successor is otherwise appointed, which has not occurred. That individual has not attended those meetings. So as we begin the process of discussing the appointing someone for those important liaison roles that Carol Dodge filled, let's keep that in mind. We've had conversations about the voting roles and non-voting roles. And I just think it's really important that as we sat here on November 17th having a contest back and forth about what that process looks like, and it was so important to have those appointments, and then we don't have individuals that show up. I will not sit up here and act like a deer in headlights that our mayor is resigning unexpectedly or unanticipated as suggested by management. That is nothing short of ridiculous, and to try to make things better by the art of saying I had no idea is ridiculous. You could have seen it coming, and I know management was aware of the situation. So as residents have sat up here and said positive things about Carol Dodge, our former mayor, I too will say positive things as we would do normally at her end of term. So indulge me these 4 things. While everyone is with their families on Easter weekend, Carol and her non-eligible for an award family played the Easter Bunny at City Hall and the M&O building, decorating cubicles, hiding eggs around the office and leaving candy for staff. Why? Because it was important to them to acknowledge the hard work of our city employees put forth. Former Mayor Dodge and her family, remind you, not eligible for award, hosted the annual ice cream social for the community at Stonehawker, bringing other partners in the community together with entertainment and free ice cream. Why? Because we didn't have those events in the city at that time, and they brought it forward. The Dodge family donated the fire truck for the Count the Light program with other community effort to attract people to Northglenn, the same fire truck you continue to do and use. When one of our senior residents needed to move to an assisted living center, yet her family was MIA, it was the Dodge family that arranged for a room, deposit, and took care of her until her family finally got on board. Another example is a resident facing eviction reached out to Mayor Dodge for help. Mayor Dodge worked with the complex to make arrangements and to have his rent paid. While we definitely have personal conflict here amongst council, I'm mostly with 3. Carol Dodge cared deeply for this community, gave her heart to the residents, made choices, improvements, and decisions with residents in mind, and she did these things I mentioned without recognition, without people knowing, because she isn't into elevating herself or using the city as a stepping stone. There are 19 council meetings left in my term. I know I'm not liked here and I'm not part of the council clique, but I assure you I will be at every last one of these meetings. I am not resigning.
My updates tonight are pretty short. I also attended the fishing derby with Antonio, and we had a great time handing out some trophies to some kids. For the past couple years, we actually haven't caught anything, so this year we broke our drought, and actually my daughter caught this ridiculously huge crawdad that I didn't know existed that big, but that didn't count towards the trout length, so it was fine. The Iron Pour was an amazing event, like Meredith said. Just the community feel of that night was really great, and so it was really nice to kind of be a part of that. And my image was also very horrible, so I'm in Joyce's camp with that. I'm not an artist, so, but it was still fun to kind of experience the whole process. And then finally, I'd like to thank Carol Dodge for her service. 10 years of service is a long time, and as any of us know up here, there's lots of sacrifices that are made. And as Marcy just pointed out, Carol's done so much for our city, and we need to appreciate that. So
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A couple of updates for me this evening. One is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board did a tour of many of our city parks, and we also took a stop and checked out the tunnel mural, which is absolutely incredible, and I hope folks will go and take a look. It's a little bit like walking through a time warp, and I'm really excited that we were able to bring on such a great artist with so much talent to build something really special for our community. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board does have a vacancy for an at-large position. So if you or somebody that you know is interested in getting involved and serving on a board or commission, we're certainly open and looking for leaders to join our board. I too attended the Iron Four and can't say enough about the event. From the food trucks to the band, which was absolutely phenomenal, to the activity of carving into a sandstone or a block of sand. It was really fantastic, and I felt like it was a fun experience to have together with the community, forging our next 50 years in iron. And then finally, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to say thank you to former Mayor Carol Dodge. I appreciate her service as well as her contributions to the city over the last 10 years, and I really wish her the best of luck in this next chapter. And I really hope that when it comes to our council, I hope that we can continue to make the best decisions for our city and to work together. I know that we have a diversity of voices and shared experiences at the table, and I believe that this is democracy at its best. But sometimes that means having difficult conversations. Sometimes that means disagreeing, asking questions. And I think that conflict is healthy, and I think that it helps us produce the best decisions for and the outcomes for our community. So the other thing I will say is that when you look at our votes since November 2017, 80% of the time we've voted together. And I believe that there's more that we agree on as a council than we disagree on. And so I hope that we can build on that. We can work on our culture and work on earning our community's trust again. To everybody who came and shared your thoughts and your opinions tonight, thank you for being here. We heard you, and I hope that together we can keep moving in a positive direction for the city of Northglenn. Thank you, Mayor.
Any follow-ups? Joanne?
I do have one quick update. Councilmember Wilford's comments about the boards and commissions reminded me that we also have a vacancy on the Citizens Affairs Board, since there's a number of public still in attendance. It's for a resident from our Ward 1, and the Citizens Affairs Board is a group who meets monthly to hear complaints or proposals from residents throughout the city. So if anybody's interested in that position, please contact the city clerk's office. And that's all. Thank you.
City Manager Guyer?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Escabel. Tomorrow evening, we will be swearing in two new police officers, Tyler Lynch and Zachary Frazier, at the Justice Center at 6 p.m., and the public is invited to attend to help welcome these two new officers to our police department.
All right.
Nothing tonight.
You had a mouthful already, huh?
Exactly.
Okay. Last but least, public invited to be heard, 3 minutes per speaker. Statements should be related to the item previously addressed by council during this meeting. Anybody want to come forward? And please do. State your name and for the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Nicole Weber, Ward 1. What happens if nobody applies to work in this toxic environment?
Then we'll have to have an election.
Okay. For the council position? Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Anybody else?
I have a weird question based on all this conversation. It sounds like there's times that people can't be here. And, you know, these days we have things like Zoom meetings and things. Is it not expedient or useful for us to have people attend by remote meeting? That might make it possible for someone who's away to attend and be active in the meeting, because they're doing that all over the world. So, just a comment.
Thank you. Kim?
Hi, good evening, all of you. Kim Snetzinger, Ward 4. I was going to be very careful this evening and not say anything, but as I sat here tonight and listened, I became more and more and more upset. The disrespect that most members of this council have had for Carol over the last 2 years has been a disgrace to this community. And I think you should all be ashamed of yourselves. Marcy, thank you for standing up tonight and making some comments. It makes me sad to see what this council has turned into. And again, I will be back, because if I say anything else this evening, it will not be very nice and won't be very nice for the public to hear some of the comments that I want to say.
Thank you, Kim. Anybody else? Seeing nobody, we're adjourned.